Good evening, good evening.
Hi, Jim.
Evening.
How's it going?
Fantastic.
I hope we get a lot of people tonight.
Yeah, I hope so too. How's everyone doing this evening?
Hello.
Charlie's gonna learn some underwriting.
Somebody's not happy.
Admit. There's our guest.
Perfect.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies.
Pat, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Jim?
Peachy keen, buddy. Peachy keen.
Peachy keen. Yeah, you got that right. You guys got any snow over there in Chicago yet?
You know, actually, we had a snowstorm that came through, I think, the middle of October, or maybe a few days. Yeah, I think it was a few days before Halloween, which Halloween's almost 50-50 chance you're going to get
Mhm.
snow or rain, one of the two. And so we had it, but it disappeared literally overnight.
That's cool.
It was melting almost as I knew it was a lot of snow because it was melting as fast as it hit the ground, and it still had accumulation. It's just that I think it lasted for maybe I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 hours before it's gone.
There you go. Always love those kind of snows. We
Those are
had
the
a
best
dusting.
kind.
Yeah, we had a dusting, and today was like 49 degrees and sunny. I'm like, I'll take it. It's December 10th. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you have a snowstorm, you don't have to shovel or plow is a good snowstorm.
You got that right.
Where are you located, Pat?
I'm in Michigan.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, those are
Hey,
you have
guys.
cold winters there, right?
Yes, cold winters. Yes, they last somewhere around 6, 7, 8 months long. So yes, they're
Yeah. I always tell people 6 to 9.
just yeah.
It's definitely our longest season.
Yes, but we've been lucky though. This year, I think we've been really lucky as far as the warm temperatures, which hey, I don't mind.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we've actually, from a snow standpoint, we've had several good years,
Mhm.
several good years. So we're due for a bad one, but I'm not hoping for it.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I hear you there. If it's going to happen, I guess it'd be better now we're in lockdown in this pandemic. I'd rather have it this winter than hopefully we'll be all out of this goofy stuff and be able to leave our homes without full masks.
Hey,
Yeah, I
everybody.
agree. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I hear you.
I know everybody, but on the other side of that is, for me, Zoom has been a savior. It has absolutely been a savior.
Yes,
And
it has.
I am finding I'm going to be one of those that's going to be reluctant to actually go back to face-to-face networking, in a crowded, loud facility where I can, I have to lean in so close just to hear what you're saying. I mean, I love being able to have a drink with a bunch of real estate investors, but the quality of the conversations on Zoom for me has been just head and shoulders above any in-person meetings that usually happen at a meetup.
I agree. I agree. I've met so many more new people, or you're right. The conversations are they're deeper because obviously you can see the countdown. You're leaving the room in 60 seconds. You kind of
From all over the country too. I mean,
Yeah.
people in different markets. I mean,
So
Yeah.
we were Michael and David and I were participating in an auction the other day, and so every time the auction is about to end, if you are down, you get the last minute bidders. So what they do is they add 3 minutes every time somebody bids. So the auction's ending in 30 seconds, and you try to snipe, the
oh
deal,
man.
and it automatically adds 3 minutes. So the auction's let's say set to end at 6 o'clock, but in fact goes on till 7 because it just keeps on adding time. That's what we need in the breakout rooms. Just press a button, give us another minute.
Give us another minute. That's true.
Yeah, it's hit or miss with the breakout room. Sometimes you want to stay there and talk to people for an hour. The other ones, it's like you're done after 3 minutes kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's hit or
Well,
miss.
that's what's great about the chat. That not everybody, I wish that they would actually share a list of names and email addresses or a phone number, some way to identify people, even a social media link, so that you can actually reach out, because I've made a ton of new connections this year just off of the chats.
Yeah, and to your point, we were just saying earlier with how much more effective and easier it's been. I've been in New York for 5 or 6 years now, and I've been getting more and more networking, especially the past 2-3 years. And I was surprised that there's a lot of these lower level meetups with guys flipping houses and duplexes and triplexes and stuff, especially because you get the Jersey guys and Westchester and Long Island all together. But it was very hard to find, and I really, to be honest, didn't find that kind of middle ground of like what this is, like the Julie's calls, where it's like that $1 million and up kind of tier. I'm sure there's the secret meetups that, the guys that are buying the Empire State Building are all going to that are here, but those aren't on meetup.com, obviously. So
Right.
This has been great. I feel I've done more here in the last 3 months on Zoom and all that than I did in the last 5 years here actually in the city on foot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree there.
And plus, too, like by the time you go there, you spend the time there, you come back. I mean, that's your whole night, 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Here you hop on a call for an hour, hour and a half. You get way more done. So I'm hoping that I'm sure it'll go back to people being in person, and I hope it does. Like you said, there's definitely pros to that, but I hope there's also some semblance of we keep doing these online.
So guys, the power of the platform is all of us, right? So one of the things that I'm brainstorming right now with a few different people, and I'm definitely looking for as much input from the platform, is when we do go back to in-person meetups, how do we integrate our Zoom meetup into our in-person meetup? So I definitely have a few ideas. But as you guys know, I am far from the smartest person in the room. And so I definitely, we might even need to create a channel for that, or even, a 1 or 2 Zoom meetup to brainstorm people that have actual physical meetups. I know Chris and I were talking about it the other day. And Chris, did you have an actual or a virtual for this last one?
We had a completely virtual for this one.
Virtual for the last one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Even
trying to
during the
find ways.
in-person ones, even during the in-person ones, we had a virtual component to it.
Yeah, I
So
think there could be
that's-
hybrids. I think those hybrids, that's going to
Yeah.
be the next thing, is bringing that camera into the live, and which is going to be great, because then your audience expands by, people who can't be there, right?
Right.
Out of state. That's
And-
cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm excited about is actually allowing people or encouraging people to bring their laptop with them, so that if they have a big screen in the meeting room, so that they can see all the people that are on virtually, and they can, flip open their laptop or join the Zoom on their phone and speak to somebody that they've really been wanting to speak to for the last 6 months, but had never seen them at the meetups, and so they can just at the same time go off into a side corner or whatever and jump on the virtual piece, and even go back and forth between the virtual and the real.
Yeah, and I think the if you add the chat component in there somehow, even if it's just the attendees being on their phone or opening a laptop, whatever, you get a lot of value through. I mean, sometimes I don't think I've been to one where I saw a speaker that I was like, oh, I didn't learn anything from, but some of those even you get the chat is almost more valuable than the meetup. I mean, look at all the stuff we have on Good Boy. There's a lot of great info in there.
Yeah, and when you've been doing this for a long time, a lot of these people that are on these meetup calls, you've seen them at 15 different conferences. You've heard 30 of their speeches on a podcast, and the material just gets repeated over and over and over again. Now, if you're thick like me, it's always new material. But for a lot of people, they would get a lot more value just by connecting in the meetup rooms or reading the chat.
Right.
So Bastian, thank you very much for taking charge of this and setting it up. It's something that I wanted to do, but this is, again, the power of this platform is it belongs to you guys. And, to credit Bastian for getting this set up and getting it started. We've already got 15 people on here that want to discuss underwriting and learn more about underwriting and have somebody poke holes in their underwriting and see if we can learn to all be better at underwriting. And even more valuable in my mind is that if we're all looking at a particular deal and we can get 3 different people to underwrite it and then have a meeting like this and poke holes in each one of those underwritings, if we can coalesce around one particular set of underwriting agreements on a particular deal, then we know we have a winner. And we know we have a deal that should be very, very easy to raise capital for and should be very easy to find all the partners for. And in fact, we may find that we have, more partners than we do deals, and we have to find more deals. And so, but that's a good problem to have. I'd rather have more investors and more partners and have to pick from them than the opposite, which is now I've got a good deal and I'm struggling to find investors or partners to go along with me before I actually lose hard money or lose the deal. So Pat, the stage is yours, my friend. I should have the sharing option open, and so you can share your screen if you want, and we can just have you walk us through the deal. And then everybody is, this is not.
What was that? Brandon.
I think that was Brandon. If don't forget to mute yourself. And by the way, guys, if you haven't figured this out, your space bar on your computer will allow you can mute yourself, and you hit the space bar. It allows you to unmute yourself only while you're holding the space bar. And,
sorry guys, I'm in a gas.
So you don't always forget to unmute yourself. And if you have interruptions, they don't interrupt the crowd. So
See, Jim, I learned something from you every day, even if it's just the space bar on the Zoom.
I know, I'm writing that down right now. My gosh.
All right, back to next week.
This is a great group.
Right.
Great. Holy cow.
all right, guys. So we're going to turn it over to you, Pat. And by the way, guys, I hope more of you step forward and don't be. I've told you I'm naturally very shy, and it would take a mountain for me to volunteer to do what Pat's doing tonight. But I will encourage you to do it because we're here to uplift each other. We're not here just to try to make fun or tear down your underwriting. We're here to try to make you better at underwriting.
That's good.
And so I really appreciate Pat stepping forward and being the first one. That takes a lot of guts that a lot of us don't have. But I do want to encourage you. We're not here to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Every day I'm uncomfortable doing this. Every day I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to have these phone calls. But I set myself up in a way that I cannot not do it, because if I give myself a choice, I'm not going to do it. I would not have gotten on this tonight except for Bastian put it forward, and I went ahead and volunteered and put the link up there so that I knew I would have to do it. So set yourself up to be uncomfortable. It's a good thing. We need to fail. We need to be comfortable failing because we can't succeed if we're not failing.
Fail,
Pat,
fail first and often.
Yep.
With that being said, how you doing, guys? I'm Pat, and I didn't do this underwriting and information alone. I did it with my partner, which is Brian, which is right below me, I believe, in the box there, Brian Watson there. So he's going to be helping me as well, going through this little presentation here we got. Let me share my screen, and we'll start with with that first, which screen is it? I think it's this one. Can never tell on Zoom. All righty, can you guys see my screen? Hopefully you can see the introduction slide here.
Yeah.
Yes.
we see it.
All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you guys out of the way here. If you do have a question, what I did, Jim, is I just followed your agenda here and kind of just I'll walk through this. Now, if you guys can't see this, let me know, like the wording and stuff coming up. But anyway, this is a property in Augusta, Georgia. Like I said, myself and Brian worked on the underwriting for this. And I'd like to thank Brian publicly for all his help and support and everything going through this. We both learned a lot on this deal. How to do things a little bit differently, quickly, and we'll go over the lessons learned at the end. Next is the market overview. The reason we picked Augusta is it's the second largest city in Georgia. It has this main workforce in there is medical, biotechnology, and a cyber center that just went in. So it's a diverse workforce. That's what I look for when I'm looking for areas to go into, a diverse workforce. It has a university. It has, I think, 2 or 3 level 1 trauma centers, which is good, as well as far as a university hospital, which is a teaching hospital, and it has a lot of population growth as well, as most areas in Georgia do, but this one here in Macon are good ones. Property introduction, it's a 104 unit garden style apartment complex, comprising of 26 2-story buildings with about 160 grade level parking. And it was built in 1968, a little older than I would like to go. I typically go in the 80s and above. And I figured, you know what the heck, it was in good shape. It's all brick, exteriors, pitched roofs, no flat roofs. And it's situated on 9.8 acres. It was the current owners have owned it since 2007. They recently refinanced in 2017, and that'll become apparent here when we go over the underwriting. So they refinanced it in 2017, and so they've done a few things. There is some deferred maintenance, like the pool doesn't work, and they haven't trimmed the trees up in a while, and the rents are low, typical stuff, value add stuff that's, that's what attracted us to this. Brian, you want to add anything else here? Okay.
Sorry, always with the mute thing, getting on mute. Yeah, no, just that the rents were the most glaring thing was how far below market the rents were. 63 cents per square foot compared to somewhere in the mid 70s or 80s for every other comparable property.
Yeah. And that was a benefit, but then it also was a challenge. Once we get into the underwriting, we'll show you that was a challenge as far as getting this thing, to some kind of financing. Now, we did put an LOI in. We did not get the LOI. A person came in and a group came in and put a full price offer, and I'll cover that here in a few seconds. All right. So the business plan is basic. Deferred maintenance, the pools, the trees. We're going to find upgrades. They've upgraded 2 of the 104 units completely with a renovation plan they had. So we were going to follow theirs. We're going to improve the curb appeal of the property, improve the unit look as well as the outside look as well. Interior upgrades, we're going to do that. We're going to upgrade that. No granite countertops, but basically, very nice cabinets. And I'll show you that here in a second. Interior budgets here, our business plan here. And this was basically how we got this is basically just kind of, spitballing it. As far as what we looked at the comps in the area, as far as what other owners were doing, interiors, we're going to, put flooring down, painting. And they also had, like I said, they did 2 units before. So we were taking that plan and kind of carrying it forward. So we weren't really kind of making it up, but they updated fixtures. They put updated fixtures and ceiling fans in all the rooms. All the units had forced air furnaces, which was nice. And the only thing that wasn't water and sewer is the only thing that was not separate metered. So RUB system, we could definitely do that. We're going to do the kitchens and also the bathrooms of the ones, and we can expect about $130 rent increase by doing that. And more of the stuff for the business plan of the exteriors. Basically, like I said, they're brick buildings, which are very nice, pitched roofs. Basically, cleaning up the outside of the property. They have a lot of pine trees there, so they let those go. And like I said earlier, the pool isn't working, and I asked the broker why. They said, well, they didn't use it. I'm like, okay, it's in Georgia, and you got like hot water 20 months out of the year. I don't understand that, but that was a big thing we're going to figure out there, and basically do, updating a lighting, rebranding the property, improve the signage. I think also had an idea of putting a perimeter fence around. It had one entrance and one exit, kind of dress up the front entrance. And then also they have a lot of green space on the property. So we were gonna install new grilling and picnic areas, so people could be outside more, and that more community effect. Does anybody have any questions to this point here?
Yeah, I just had a question. You had mentioned it briefly on how you came up with the 500. Oh, you know what? Never mind. It just remembered. I was wondering how you came up with the CapEx budget. But you said that they had already done 2 units and you were going off of those numbers.
Yeah, we were going off of that and kind of using that and expanding it. And I did get some quotes on fencing. I did get some quotes on grills and stuff like that from another property, a mobile home park I was looking at a year ago. So I brought that stuff over and just kind of doing that. Was kind of a spitball estimate.
Yeah,
Right
it was also 572 is also pretty close, 5,500 door, pretty much. So we were using one of the comps we're using is Magnolia Park.
That's right. Yes.
Four Oaks Capital is closing on soon, 167 unit, and they were pretty close on that 5,500. I think they were like $7,000 a door, but our CapEx, I think we came in 5,500 a door was pretty, I think, reasonable.
Yeah,
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think their CapEx budget, I think, is 1.3, and ours was, and again, taking what we saw that the other group did, and then again, the rents being so low, we knew we had some runway for that. So, okay, awesome. All right. And then here's the rents. The rents currently, the business plan obviously is to push the 1 bedroom, 1 bath units. It had 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom units. One thing that I didn't put in this thing here, this PowerPoint here, is they're the largest square footage of units of the comparables that the CoStar report had on us, as well as the broker's OM. So it's the largest square footage of both the 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. The 2 bedroom was almost 1,100 square feet. So, but as you can see, the rents are just, well, you can't really see, but they're at $525 for the 1 bedroom, and obviously the areas that's the lowest in the comps. And we had how many? There was like 12 or 13 comps that we went to, and that is the lowest, as well as also the 2 bedroom as well. Is it 601 right now, why some of them are up in the 700-800s. So we knew we had runway, and we are still trying to figure out. One of the big things we had a question with is the occupancy dropped in 2017, as well as the occupancy dropped, as well as the rents dropped in 2017 as well. So we were trying to figure out, is it an area problem or is it a property problem? And we come to the realization and talking to the broker and talking to a property manager in the area that it's the owners, which is obviously, that's awesome. They didn't take care of things, slacking on maintenance, slacking on the, following up with people and rents and stuff like that. But that was still, we knew we had a runway. So that took us some time there. I guess the only thing this whole thing here that I probably would have done quicker, and I'm getting ahead of myself with the lessons learned, is put the LOI in quicker. And then figure out everything else later. I mean, it's, but anyway, that's kind of the story here. And then the underwriting here kind of give you a forecast here. I'll bring up the spreadsheet here in a second. Again, the whisper price from the broker was between 50 and 55 a door, or 5.2 to 5.7 million. Pretty aggressive. And in talking to the, and again, we were modeling this on the Magnolia Park for Four Oaks Capital, who had just gotten that under contract, and they were at 43 a door, and that's 167 units. So we were kind of saying, okay, let's start at 43 and work up to 47, 48's lower, stuff like that. So that we did find out there is an assumable loan on the property of 3.3, and the broker really didn't admit this, but that's why they had to go 55,000 a door, because as you see the third bullet point, they had a $400,000 to $500,000 prepayment penalty, and the loan would last until 2027. So either they come up with the difference and we buy it at what it should be, or so we had to do some wrangling there, and Jim helped us as far as how to kind of work through that and come up with an offer, because if they sold it to us at the 43 a door, they're gonna come to the table with some money. So we had to work in with doing that. So you want to add anything here, Brian?
Yeah, no, I mean, just that it worked out pretty after finding out that the loan was assumable, and kind of factoring in their prepayment penalty, about 500 grand. It came out to about, that low 50 a door, like I think it was like 51 something, almost 52. So it kind of fell into place in our mind for why they wanted that price. So.
Yeah, and when we found that out, probably I think it was the next day or so, talking to the broker, they said that they had a 55 per door offer, LOI, with some of the money, earnest money, going hard at the execution of the PSA. So that was one thing. I'm giving away my lessons learned, but that's one thing that I would do next time. But again, when you see the numbers, I'm still trying to figure out how they're doing 55 a door, because the being that their occupancy was so low, as well as the rents, and I'll show you in the spreadsheet here in a second, that it just doesn't work. I mean, you'd have to raise rents hugely, even with this debt on it here, right here, this 3.3, and their current debt structure the way it is, their debt coverage ratio is not even a 1.21. Which to me is kind of weird. And they're going to try to pile on more debt up to the 5, and it just, that's where we kind of were, both Brian and I were like, okay, how are they doing this? So I'm still in contact with the broker, so I'm hoping, hoping something happens, but I don't know, but we're still looking at it. But any questions on this? I'll switch over to the PowerPoint, or just to say the SDA. All right.
Quick question. So you said that you would have, lessons learned, you would have put the LOI sooner, but how would have that helped you if the other buyer anyways was going to come with the LOI with a stronger offer?
Well, I probably would have done it, and again, I say that because obviously LOI is not legal and binding. Put it in at full price, and then do $10,000 hard when the PSA comes in, voicing that it may not be a good policy to do, because I don't know how it's working. I don't like to retrade. I don't like to do that, but that would be maybe one thing to do. And again, that's just that's just me talking. I don't, I don't know, but that's the only thing I would do, because we had to figure out so many different things. And that's a great question. We had to figure out so many different things. Once he said assumable, okay, we've never done that. How do we do that? How do we get these numbers? And Julie at Old Capital was awesome as far as running scenarios for us. If we put in an offer at 43 a door, that financing come back at 75% loan to value, great interest rate, 30-year, the 30-year AM, great deal. We went back in and tried to do it at 55,000 a door, and Fannie would only go 60% loan to value. So that's where I'm trying to understand like how they do that. But I guess to answer your question, just to tie it up to give us more time, because it's a great property, and all the energy and focus we put into it, I think there's definitely way huge upside. I just got to figure out how to get that upside.
Yeah, on the speed of underwriting, I lament on the same, I don't want to be throwing out offers and then retrading on them or not having true backing behind them. But at the same time, it's like you said, if you can act quickly and they'll react to it, maybe you can just kind of front run even higher offers that come in later because it's close enough. In my mind, part of something I kind of want to build out, but just like streamlining how quick I can get things underwritten, whether it's through like virtual assistants or, when I was doing just like condos and duplexes, I could underwrite a deal in 25 minutes, and I assume at some point, and maybe other people are there, but we'll all kind of get there on the apartment side as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that we didn't want to do, like going into Augusta, a market that neither of us have been in before. I mean, was to be retrading on a first deal, So I mean, like we wanted to make sure it was reasonable right off the bat, pretty much. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole key of doing these underwriting exercises. The first one, you spend days, and then you get that down to one day, and you get down to half a day. And by the time you've done your 10th one, all of a sudden you can look at the ad, you can look at a picture of the of one of the units, and all right, well, I'll tell you $5,000 a door. I can raise it to this. This one probably pencils out. Double check what the broker gave you. You can put an offer in an hour, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also helps to have what I call floors. Like, okay, the debt coverage ratio is this. This area per door is this. Our split is 80-20, 70-30. We're taking 2% acquisition, whatever those are, and just have those set. Right. And then it's got to fit that mold, if it's close, okay, great. If it's not, we did a lot of different shenagling or, figuring to try to figure this out, and that rightly so. But, having those floors in place, okay, we want, 80-20. We didn't have any pref on this, it was 80-20, and I think we had a 2 or 3% acquisition fee. Just having those floors in there, so then the numbers, where they are. I mean, that's basically what they are.
The other thing, I mean, that's been kind of in my mind recently is like starting with an even better split, starting with like 70-30 split and seeing how it pencils from there, because starting from 80-20, you really don't have much room to move, like once all your other levers are pulled, your investor, your manager split is kind of the last one, and to have more room to pull it, like from 70 to 75 to 80, it seems like, so starting lower is just, I don't know, something that
and then worst case you get to keep it high.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's some of the lessons we learned on this one here as well. Like we said, new market, we were going off of like that last bullet point. We were modeling, that 167 unit that Four Oaks was doing, and we were intimately involved in that. So it was like, okay, this has got to be less, right? I mean, we in our head and our brain, we're like this, why am I paying more for this property? And they did a loan assumption as well.
At a higher interest rate too. I mean, they have
yes, they did.
interest rate on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they had a higher interest rate. Yeah, so we were playing all this stuff in our minds, right, and going, okay, where's this guy get from 55? And then obviously when they brought up the loan assumption, okay, that made sense. But then we still had to figure out, okay, how do we do this? And I'll show you what we did on the spreadsheet, of taking, this 500,000 and dividing it by the number of units, and then taking that off of the price per unit. So we're not paying 500,000 more. So we, like Brian said, we get into a range of 43, 47, and that's kind of where we came up with our price. But when these guys came in and said, hey, they got a 55, and again, they may be retrading, I don't know, but that's why we're here, right? All right, any questions? I'm going to switch over here to.
So while you're switching, Pat, I just wanted to say a couple of things. Number one, to your question about how much of the proceeds you received, and I don't remember what the actual number was, but for the sake of argument, let's say it was 65%. And a lot of times people get confused about where did those numbers come from and how did they arrive at 65 versus the 75% that they're saying, you could potentially get up to 75%. Most of that is driven by the T12. So you have to understand that your assumptions in your underwriting have no bearing whatsoever on the term sheet. And so the term sheet's going to be driven by the actual T12s that you give them. So one of the things that Old Capital does is they give you their underwriting on the deal. So you need to go through that underwriting, compare it to your underwriting, and see where there's differences, and make sure, because they can make mistakes like anyone else. I was on a deal with another member of the group that was getting a much higher number from a different lender, and Old Capital made a mistake. They were using an older T12, and the NOI had been going up each month. And so they can underwrite to the T3. And if they're not underwriting to the proper T3, then you're going to get a much lower number. And so that's why it's so important to have up-to-date financials and to make sure that they are updating their underwriting based on those updated financials, and that you get them to them as quickly as possible. And if you're trending upward all the time, then that's why a lot of times these deals close with much better proceeds at the end. So that's one thing. The other is, Chris, I wanted to ask you a question real quick. At your day job, or did you say you're underwriting for condos and stuff like that?
No, I just meant before kind of trying to transition into the bigger stuff. I had just done a lot of local condos. It kind of became old hacks. I was doing it for what felt like for so long.
So you're kind of in that PE crowd in rubbing elbows. One of the things that we're trying to figure out as a platform is how can we automate our underwriting? How can we get to where our underwriting, we can press a button and kick it out 90% complete?
Yeah,
okay?
there are when the deals are big enough and the dead deal costs can be a small enough portion of the deal, there are actual like third-party underwriting companies and then third-party due diligence companies. And I know that there are some shops that do that for
and we are basically going to become that. We could literally start pushing that out if we wanted to pretty quickly. But what I'm thinking about is some of the real big integrations like CoStar or Reese Reports or Yardi. They use automation where they a T12 comes in and it comes in formatted and goes into their underwriting model. Nobody physically enters it. Okay. So I'm trying to find out a little more of the color of the background of who they're using or what systems they're using or how it physically works. I'd really love to get some of our smart IT people that are already on the platform, in touch with some of their IT people, not the guys that are using it in the shop, but the guys who are building it on the back end. Because I have a suspicion that a lot of these APIs that are being used are actually available and pretty cheap. But to buy them from somebody is super expensive. It's kind of like CRMs. You spend $50 a month to buy a CRM, but we've got enough brain power in our group to build out a CRM, to build out an investor portal right now that people are charging $1,000 a month for. And really, in reality, we could build that out very quickly and very easily. I just don't know who has the expertise yet. But we need to constantly be chatting about this kind of stuff on Slack with each other so that we can figure out who has the expertise and who knows somebody in the industry that is already doing it. So we talk to the right people and we can start getting that stuff built out so that all of us have it available to use and don't have to pay through the nose to do it. So that was another thing. And then on retrading, guys, in a seller's market, yeah, you can retrade when there's legitimate reasons to retrade, but it makes getting a deal done that much harder. So you try to do everything you can not to retrade. But if you find something hidden, you find busted pipes under the ground that you had no way of knowing, and the seller either didn't know it or didn't disclose it, then that's a perfectly legitimate reason to retrade. But you don't want to retrade over things that should have been obvious. So like you didn't do enough market research on market rents. So you were underwriting lower market rents or higher market rents. And then when you actually did the physical market rents and did the boots on the ground work that needed to be done, the market rents didn't come in where you thought they would be. And so now you want to retrade. You don't retrade on stuff like that. That'll give you a bad name in the marketplace, and shame on you for letting that happen. So.
Awesome. All right. All right, let me get back to screen sharing here. All right, everybody see my spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now I hope I picked the right run here, Brian, because we did so many iterations of this that that I hope this is the correct one. We did have the T12. We did have an income statement up to September, so we put those in. Obviously, the first column is the marketing package, the way they had it. And as you can see, the rents are really low. And again, that leads us to, the issue with bringing this thing at 55 a door. That's what they had is 5.7, 55 a door. And then the concessions and vacancies, like we talked about, were high, quite high for this time. And again, in 2017, something happened in that area. And then you can see in this column here, number one, the expenses that they had, which some of them are kind of $104 for advertising. Well, that's probably why they don't have any tenants. They didn't have anything for legal, but the broker did say that they use it was a corporate. They self-managed it, but they used a corporate, so that was in there, and they stuff like that. So we put that in there, and then with that number in there and their current debt, as you can see, it doesn't work. So that was kind of concerning as far as, okay, what they're even suggesting at 55 a door, really wouldn't work. And again, this is with their current debt load on it right now, the 3.3, just assuming the loan. Now, you could probably find a lender, I don't know where, but agency debt is what we're trying to do. Obviously, that's the easiest to do. Again, like I said earlier, they were only going to give us 60% loan to value, which obviously would affect your numbers up here extensively as far as reserves and such like that. So, so we did a couple different iterations here. We did it with year one pro forma from the OM. We did it with the T12 numbers. And again, putting our expenses in and their expenses in from the T12 gave us a different picture than their little 64% here. We're at 62 and a 60, but we added in some more expenses or getting them up to what our property manager, our property management company gave us from 35 to 41. Was it, Brian? Is that the range? I'm trying to think off top.
Yeah, 39 to 43 for
Per
per
door. Per door. So we kind of use that again as a metric, you know, that they told us, you know, this is what we can run it at, and that's kind of falling in line here with the numbers. And again, we went across and did, you know, some more assumptions. We also did one with the assuming the loan, using the income numbers at 43 a door. This is where we came with our offer, keeping the same numbers here, and the expenses the same. We just barely cleared the hurdle. We really didn't clear the hurdle to do that with there. So that was a concern there of how do we kind of do this, you know, and make this work. And then we also did the assumption with the income numbers at 50 a door with the current loan. And again, those are the numbers here in there. This stays the same. Expenses stays the same, and it still kind of gives us the same thing because again, we're dealing with the same type of debt. So that's what we were doing, and what we did is we put a presentation together for the broker and ran them through basically what we're running you through here and saying, listen, this is why we, you know, started at 43 a door, because, you know, this is what it is. And I think didn't we do the presentation before we really got investigating the assumption part of it, I think.
Yeah, we were kind of always operating on that. Yeah, I mean, we came across the loan assumption afterwards, and
I think that's
tried
right,
to
yeah.
kind of like catch up after. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when we kind of changed things up a little bit and tried to do that. Now, when we put the offer in at 43, because again, this isn't the spreadsheet we used to do that. It did pencil at 43 with new debt because I put in old Capital's numbers, and I apologize, I don't have that on this sheet here, but it did pencil because of this was done with the assumption. Now, what we did with the assumption is here's the particulars of the assumption. So we took it two routes, right? We went one with a new loan, and that's when Julie, after we found out about the assumption, obviously a brand new loan, you're going to bring, you know, 60%, you know, that's all they're going to cover. But a loan at 43 a door to give us 75% loan to value. The interest rate was, I think, 3.78 or something. It was great. So that's what we presented them with. And then he brought up the idea of the loan assumption. And this is the particulars of that loan assumption. And we tried to figure out how to work this. And that's why we use what you see here on the scenarios tab, how to figure this out. And what we did is I went to 500,000 per door. So I did that, divided it by the per door discount. So I took a $4,800 deduction per door. So I'm not paying 500,000 a door to do that. I know it may sound confusing. So the offer of 43 is actually an offer of 38 because you're going down in this thing here. And I don't want to get too in the weeds, but we had to figure this kind of out like on the fly, as far as, so we weren't overpaying the $500,000, you know, prepayment penalty for this. Because again, obviously you put in 500,000 more, it's not going to work. But so what we did is once we we had this with the loan that Julie gave us at 43. It did work. And then when we went over to our P&L, it did work, as you can see here. Same numbers carry over. It is green over here, but what we did here is we manually overwrote the rents in the first year. So we went from average of 595 up to 615, with assuming the loan at 43, and then we just carried this over, increasing each year. Because there was, again, we were at the bottom of the rent stack as far as comparables. Another lessons learned is always get the CoStar report for the property. Ask the broker or see if you can get it from somebody else, because that gave us a chart that shows, for that property, all the surrounding properties in the comp area, and ours was a dead last at the 595. So this 615 here is like, it's not even in the middle of where rents are right now for the comps. So we knew we could move it. We knew we had to figure out how to do it, because another concern was okay, you're gonna go from 595 to 615, and then you notice here on line 13 we added a RUBS program in, right? Again, I still don't understand why people don't pay for their own water, but I'll get over it. They were paying, there's $42,000 of water and sewer that they were not paying. So the thought pattern was doing 25 new rent or tenants a month or a year onto the paying for the RUBS. So by year 4, everybody would be paying RUBS. Again, I think that's fairly conservative. I think it's, again, if we got better results, but I figured I'm going to put in something, 25, tenants a year doing it. It still takes us down by 10 grand a month. At this particular property as well, they don't accept pets. That was something else that we wanted to model in as well. So there, again, as you can see, there was a lot of opportunity. Just kind of had to figure out how to go from, scenario 1 over here, or the 55 a door. Let's go back over to here, the 5.7. How do you make that work with only a 60% loan to value, loan on there? Yes, raise more capital, but how? And we didn't model that out. We didn't model out how long it would take us to get out of the hole per se, with the rent increases. When would we make that additional money up in the 3rd or 4th year? One thing we did have here is we were selling in the 6th year or refinancing, so it is a 6-year hold. That helped us. We did. Let me stop there. Does anybody have any questions? I covered a lot, and I don't mean to just keep going.
Do you guys ever look at the unlevered returns just to simplify maybe the noise of the debt?
No, I do not. How would you do that, I guess?
So one of the ways that sometimes people look at deals is they say, yeah, I know that some people, are billionaires and they can get tremendous, debt terms, and, that alone could potentially help them buy the property. Other people can get not as good loan terms, and so it could sink the property. But fundamentally, is the property itself a strong property? And so the way to run those numbers would be essentially just assuming you bought the property cash. Now, obviously, this has a loan.
100% down payment, right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Interesting. So you do that over here on this scenarios tab then?
Yeah, you could. Yep.
Okay, interesting. 100%.
Yeah, that's the easy way to model it out, and then you'd probably have to, take out some of your debt upfront costs and stuff like that. But essentially, that's what a cap rate is.
Gotcha.
In a simplistic level, but then you might have some additional venture level expenses or something else.
So when doing an unleveraged, what would that tell me? What thing would it tell me about the property that
I think it would tell you if the debt is making it unattractive or attractive.
Okay.
And you're then maybe looking at it more as like a basis play.
Okay.
Wasn't that also you basically take your cap rate versus what your debt is costing you, and you want your cap rate to be above that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the same as loan constant too? Because I've heard that loan constant be at least 2 points below cap rate. Is that right?
Yeah, 'cause I think you put that in here, didn't you, Brian? There you go. Yeah.
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 I think that spread changes over time depending
I
on
never
the
really got clear on that though. That is correct, maybe someone else knows.
Yeah, loan constant, I've looked into that too, and that one's, you get a PhD to understand, but I think you're right. Overall, that is pretty much what it sums up.
Hey guys, so I second that. So typically what they do is you can use the unlevered value to basically check your cash on cash return. Your cash on cash return is another check. And then also if you compare your cap rate to your interest rate, the interest rate has to be, lower than your cap rate. Then at that point, you know that it makes sense to borrow money.
Yeah, I think it's 2 points or something.
Yeah. At
Yeah,
mobile homes is 3. Yeah. It's like 2, 3. Yeah. Points. Yeah. Yeah. The cap rate in Augusta right now is somewhere above 2.2 to 2.5 for the area.
The cap rate.
I'm sorry. Did I say that?
That's right.
Yes. I'm sorry. So that's good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Take
I
a
mean,
look
I
at
don't
that.
know. I just was throwing it out there. I would say I did not value that sort of concept for a long time. And then when I started using it, I think it helped me just simplify the way I look at deals before getting into some of the nuances of kind of what debt you can and can't put on it.
So you would just put line 11, just in your down payment, you just do 100%, or sorry, line 10, you just do 100%.
Yep.
So you do
Yeah, we'll try that. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, good suggestion, Chris.
Thanks.
I think I may have something broken here. Okay.
Yeah, it might kind of mess up the model depending on how it's
Yeah.
functioning, but
Well, that's good to know. Okay, cool. I'll
Yeah.
try that. Yeah, because that's really kind of what we're looking for is one, they did get their loan or their debt from Northmark. I know the company. I've heard of them. I don't know what kind of terms, whatever. I don't know. Maybe they are getting it at 55, and they're bringing it 60. So that's where we kind of lamented is how do we work this that we could do this, and see if it would work buying it at full price, and then how long would it take us to make the improvements so the P&L here starts screaming. As you can see here, it does start screaming, going up from there at this rate here without, in fact, one here also this is actually should be better because I didn't take off the 10,500 for the rubs in these years. So it actually should be better going forward. So we knew we could get to this. It was just, how do you go from here, right, to that first year in operation? And that's where we kind of, at least I struggled with, and maybe this unleveraged value would maybe help see that, because again, going with the regular agency debt at 75% loan to value would only give us 43, and then going up to 55 would only get 60% loan to value, and bringing a lot more capital to the table.
Now, you discounted, or should say eliminated the option of the assumable debt because the debt service coverage wasn't there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't penciling then. Yeah.
Seeing as that's an existing loan, is that a requirement? I mean, obviously the loan, I'm assuming, wasn't in default or in special servicing with the current owner. So why was that a requirement that it has to be at that 1.25?
I don't know. That was a question that we were pondering too. Like, do we need to have the DSCR at 1.25? The terms that they had on it, they had pretty good terms. I mean, what was it? 3.98
3.98.
for 30-year M. So we're like, that's pretty good. Like, that's
Well, I guess
comparable.
to answer that question, I guess is if it doesn't work with $3 million debt on it, you're going to put $2 more million debt on it. That was my kind of, if it's not working right now with the current debt on it and not making a DCR, is the bank going to let you put on $2 million more? Because it's only going to go negative. But we never really asked that of somebody who could answer that for us. I just kind of assumed that, hey, if it doesn't work now, and we told the broker that, but I mean, at that point, he's like, okay, thanks. I mean, he didn't know what to do with it. But that's a question I need to answer from somebody. I'm assuming that when you're turning in your paperwork every month to the bank, that your debt coverage ratio has to stay above the minimum. And Jim, maybe that's a question you can answer. I business-wise, I think that's I think some part of the loan agreement that it has to stay that. And I may be wrong, but
You're right, Pat. If it's not within the debt coverage ratio of 1.2 or something, the bank takes over your basically your account.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. And again, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. We never tried that out. Again, we were kind of doing this stuff, after or during the time we were doing the assumption. So and then obviously the offer came in, but we want to get quicker at these things so we can kind of figure these things out. And that's why I said in the beginning of the lessons learned, I just throw an LOI in there. With the preliminary numbers, we did the preliminary numbers, without the loan assumption at 43, we could go up to 49, and then the broker told us, so we already put in the LOI already. So all we would have had to say is, okay, it will make 10 grand hard when we do, a PSA, and then work it out from there, and I don't know if it would have worked or not. I don't know, because we kind of stopped working on it at this point, right? Because they already had an offer, and we're looking at 2 other properties right now. So, but that's kind of where we stopped with it. And any suggestions or anything? Because I know we got to make every deal doesn't work, but it's like, how do you go from here to year one?
What I'm about to present is a little time consuming, but I'd love to go line by line on the expense items and just get people's kind of perception on like per unit basis. And, in my mind, there's a couple different ways that deals can work, and it's either, miss operations, not pushing rents, or some sort of value add that no one else could think of, or you could do it cheaper than no one else or someone else.
Yeah, and that we did that, and not line by line, but we did talk to our
Yeah.
property manager and say, okay, so that's why I used their numbers, and then the numbers on the P&L would change slightly. This broker here had stuff in for a reserve, which was typically they don't, which was nice. So yeah, I mean, that's what we looked at too, is like $100 for marketing. I mean, it's so unrealistic, but $3,600 a year for CoStar listing itself. So
yeah,
but that's what we tried to do is
and I'm sure you already did that, or maybe said another way, like, I don't know, were there any areas in that expense item that you thought you could be more aggressive on?
I mean, we were getting a lot of this straight from the PM too, I mean, he was confirming a lot of it for us. So, we were pretty, and he's, their company they've got a ton of doors in Augusta already, so we felt it's pretty good info.
Yeah, and then that's great, Chris. We tried really. I guess we didn't try everything because obviously we didn't get the deal. But yeah, we looked at all that and said, okay, where can we do this? can I become a lawyer and do this? Nah, probably not. I mean, the insurance, like Brian said, he took the lead on that and went to the PM and ran this stuff through with them, which was that was kind of the hard part of this is, we weren't like crazy wild off, right? I mean, as you can see, it's 413 to 460 is what they show. We 413. There was no like, and some of these I see they don't have advertising, insurance, just stuff is missing completely, and that's why it was kind of like, okay, what are we missing? What about this deal are we not seeing?
I mean, it was even to the point where, I mean, Eric Shirley from Four Oaks made a presentation on Magnolia Park, the 167 years. He was saying that, when you're expecting your property manager to run a heavy lift like this for you, they're not going to be charging you that 3% management fee. It's going to be closer to 4 or 4.5%, So, I mean, in reality, for the first year and a half, 2 years, so we wanted to be as conservative as we could be and just model in 5%.
I would say that's just something I wouldn't say I'm struggling on, but just like when I underwrite deals, I'd love to be at a point where I can kind of each individual item be able to like eyeball it. Like, was your property, without going to a property manager, did the property manager you guys used, was that something that they kind of readily did? Or I want to say were they happy to do it, but were they happy to do it for you guys to kind of get the business? Or
I mean, we didn't really get that far with as far as the scenario of them doing managing the whole lift for us. But on a previous deal that I was looking at with Jim, actually, they were more than happy to handle all of it for us and charge us accordingly, of course. So I mean, so I think it would definitely be, they would love it.
Yeah, we tried everything that we had in our little little mind box of things here. Let me share one last thing, and then we'll close up, because I obviously I don't want to keep people more than we have to. But I wanted to cover our lessons learned here, so I can fulfill my agenda here that Jim Biggs has put out. Can you guys see the lessons learned?
No, it just says Pat started
Blank screen here. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I hate Zoom.
While
I
you're
mean, I should-
finding that, I wanted to ask Chris. Chris, are you asking the question of how to best determine whether a number is out of place or not in the expense line?
yeah, because maybe it's my micro management, but just like, I think that property managers, obviously, they often are more in touch with the market than maybe us, especially if it's a new market. But at the same time, in my experience, if you talk to 3 different managers, you get 3 different numbers. And so just trying to kind of figure out what like our kind of true number is as a group or as an individual.
Yeah. So that's something that if we continue to upload this data, and that's, the power of this, guys, is the more data we get, the smarter all of us are. So that's why it's in our best interest to put everything on the platform, because we will start to get historical knowledge, and we can aggregate that, and we can build into the model exactly. We can make every cell be red or green, every single cell on an underwriting performance. That, hey, here's an expense that's out of line, it's flashing red, okay? But we can't do that unless everybody agrees to upload all of their data onto the platform all the time, because we need enough history to start building this. Now, one of the things that's available to us right away is there's a couple of different organizations that put out national studies on by market and by class of what the average expense ratios are. So you could look at Augusta specifically, C-class, and see what each expense line should be. But
That'd be
those
interesting.
studies, you can buy individual studies for as little as $100 for just Augusta, but you can buy the national study, and I want to say it's like $500, $600, $700 per year when they come out with it. And as a group, if you guys wanted that, we could go together. There's 100 of us. We could pitch in $5 and own the study. And the
Yeah.
study's good. It doesn't change a lot from year to year.
Yeah.
So if we only bought it once every 3 years, we'd be good. But if we buy it one time, in 3 years, we will have on our platform, if everybody uploads everything, we'll have aggregated data for 3 years. We'll be able to put the report together and sell it for $500.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
can't do that if we don't all stop being afraid that somebody's going to take something from us. Put it all out there. Okay. Put it all out there. And that's why you want every term sheet uploaded. You want every speck of data that you gather when you're trying to decide if you want to buy something, put it up there, because we'll be able to aggregate that data and build an unbelievable, powerful platform to buy properties as a group. And I'd love to get to a point where, you know, it just becomes everybody who's on here, you know, we just put this in automatic, you know, and it just starts spitting out this data for everybody, because everybody doesn't want to own this deal in Augusta. You know, not everybody wants this size. Not everybody wants C-class. Not everybody wants to be in Georgia, you know, so you just got to put it out there, and you're going to, trust me, you're going to gain more than you lose from putting it out there. And I also wanted to say about something earlier about term sheets that I don't know if you guys have seen yet or not, but when you get a quote from Old Capital, they actually give you the underwriting. So you know, I said you need to check their underwriting. What I didn't say is that most lenders will not give that to you. And so if you're dealing with a lender that won't give it to you, you need to insist. You need to keep, you know, force them to tell you how they're underwriting it. Okay. Or you can do it the easy way and just use Whole Capital. But you do need to check, you need to check their work, you know, no matter who you're using. And you can't check their work if they're not showing you, you know, like the teacher says, show your work. You know, if they're just giving you the answer, which is the term sheet, and not showing the work, which is the underwriting and how they underwrote it, then you can't check it. And also, as a group, if we start to coalesce around a couple of different property managers, then it'll become much easier, Chris, to your point, to get them to give you underwriting. Now, we always want to be testing them. We always need to check them against somebody else, you know, but we could pick one or two that we really like. And I love up and comers, you know, because they work harder, you know, and get them to underwrite for us. And if nothing else, it always gives us a baseline, you know, and whoever is the existing property manager, they already have that information. They had to put together a business plan for the current owner. They should most definitely, if they want to keep the job, you know, share that underwriting with you. And they're the person best able to tell you where they need capital and what needs to be fixed. So your capital budget is probably best disclosed by that existing property manager, which you can then take to your preferred property manager and say, you know, this is where I think we need to make sure that we're covering these X, Y, and Z items, you know, and you have, it's easier to compare at that point. And and if they won't give you underwriting, if they won't give you a business plan, a pro forma, it's not a property manager you want to work with.
Yeah.
I have a question just for the group in general. What are people assuming for their rental growth rate on kind of a long-term basis? I've seen a couple presentations come through where people are assuming 3% rent growth kind of year 4 through 10. And it's like, I mean, there are markets that we're experiencing it, but my understanding is that going forward, we're going to be in kind of a low growth environment. And I think in your model, you guys had 1.5.
Yeah, we had 1.5, but someone else pointed out that it's actually not. It's closer to 8. And we were we were going off of Magnolia Park, which is kind of another mistake that they were making, was we were just using that one comp. You know, we had a whole slew of other comparables we could have been using, but that's what they were doing. So we're like, oh, I guess it's okay, you know. So
Yeah.
but I mean, so I mean, Pat, maybe you can say something else about it. But I mean, the rent growth thing was another question that we were kind of struggling with.
Yeah, I mean, that we tried as again, like we showed on the thing, the rents and stuff and expenses were so low to make it work. You know, that first year we had to be aggressive. You know, yes, we're going to spend 500,000. We had to push the rents, you know, more than the $20 or whatever, and that's what you see is those bigger spikes up. You know, again, we were just trying to whatever we could. And I've heard the same thing you've heard, Chris, is, hey, we're going to be conservative, this and that. But, you know, it's just where the market is right now. If I show you the CoStar chart, I mean, there's, you know, like $100 that they could go up now. That doesn't mean everybody could pay that, because obviously we're doing rubs.
And I was thinking more so on like not like bringing up to market, but maybe like what market is naturally growing at.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So a little more nuanced answer, I think, would be on this. It's deal dependent. On this deal, you're so far below market rents that you can, on your underwriting, show an aggressive rent increase because you're so far under market. Okay, so you might have the ability to push rents 8% and still be in the middle of the pack, as Pat said they would have been. So that's not a true rental increase, a market increase. So if you're buying a stabilized deal, you know, if you guys look in the deals that are open for investment right now, these are actual deals that have already been purchased. They're raising capital for. In that underwriting, you can look at a lot of these very stabilized deals that are being offered for sale right now. And if anybody has more of them, please upload them, because this is a great place for you to see what your competition is doing. And if they're raising capital, or if they had trouble raising capital, you can look at their business plan and see why. And you'll notice that a lot of those deals there, I'm uploading only a few because I just don't have enough time to upload all of them. There was 3 of them on my agenda tonight that had webinars tonight, and I just simply couldn't do it. But you're seeing many of these Texas deals, which is, Texas is the epicenter of apartment investing. And if they can't do it in Texas, you're not going to do it in Georgia. Okay. And most of these deals, they're underwriting, and trust me, most of these are from Sumrock or Sumrock students. They are very, very conservative in their underwriting, but they're still buying deals, and they're buying more deals in Texas than anybody. And most of them are underwriting for 0 rent growth in year 1, 0 rent growth in year 1. But these are stabilized deals. These are not heavy value add, okay? And many of them are underwriting 0 rent growth for 2 years for a stabilized deal. And my argument is that is where you should be. If you're close to market rents, you should probably be modeling 0 for 1 year, maybe even 2 years. If that's what your competition is doing, and but it also depends on your investor pool. So if your investor pool is different than their investor pool, you can get away with different things. You can get away with a 70-30 deal. You can get away with, you know, with a different rent increase. You can get away with different reversion cap rates. You know, all those things can be different on your deal if your investor pool is outside of a normal multifamily real estate investor. But if your investor pool has already been on 4 or 5 deals as an LP, and with 3 or 4 different sponsors, then they're more experienced. They're not just going to take for granted what you're telling them is a good deal. But if your investor pool is all people that are unique to you, like what Tim Bratz has, they don't shop anywhere other than Tim Bratz. They don't realize that Tim is getting all of the benefits in those deals, where in Sumrock deals, almost all of the benefit is going to the LP, and the sponsors are working for peanuts. You know, so it is not just a straightforward answer, you know, but I think that looking at historical rent growth historical rent growth. If you're doing 2 and 3%, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. And in the high performing markets like Texas, they may have over the last 10 years probably averaged 5, 6, maybe even 7, but that's historically over a long period is not normal. That's a high growth period in a high growth market.
Yeah, I think for me, that's how it is. Like we're looking in Raleigh, and like it's almost like if you're not assuming a 4 or 5% rent growth the first 2 years, it's almost like you can't compete. And I don't feel comfortable doing that, but other people are, and they might not be wrong. That's obviously a super high growth market as well. But
yeah,
I think you need to back into that number kind of from the renter's perspective. So year one, if you went and redid that unit, sure, you can show a lot of rent growth. But now,
yeah, and sorry, just to be more clear, when I think of sort of rent growth, I think of like market rent growth, not bringing the property up to market, which is like the general kind of
stabilized market.
Yeah, so year one, you can bring it up to kind of whatever you think you can get it to, but then kind of on a stabilized run rate kind of after that. So sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, that actually was right into my next point, which is, so that first year, if you max out, let's say that market rent's $1,000, and now you want to show you're already at full market rent, you more or less max that out, and you want to go 3-4% every year after 5 years. I mean, that's $30 a year. So are you going from 1,000 you already maxed out to $150 on top of that in year 5, $1,150? As a tenant, maybe that 30 is doable, maybe it's not, but that's kind of what I have in the back of my mind when I'm doing those. On the vice versa, if you underwrite, maybe that first year you went up to 900, and now every single year you can put in a little more rent growth. So I think that's one of those things you can kind of juice back and forth in the model to make it work in your favor too.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris, to your point, if you're in a really hot market and buying in a hot market and all your competitors are underwriting 4%, that's a situation where you really need a lot of data and you need it to be very current data. It's okay to underwrite at 4% if the market's growing at 7.
Right.
So it's just a real nuanced answer. And I'm like you, it's hard to get comfortable doing numbers like that. But if you want to buy in that market, hey, it works really well until it doesn't.
Yeah.
This whole platform is because I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in a deal playing it with those same kind of cards. It works really well until it doesn't. And if you live to be old enough and invest in enough deals and make some mistakes, they'll harden you against that kind of thing. I was doing it up until last year or up until this year. And right now I will not do it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly like it's good to look at those things and wow, everyone's using 4%. So either everyone's missing something or I'm missing something. Me personally, I go in there with the mindset of I'm missing something, but I think I was telling you this, Jim, when my partner and I started out doing flips, we were looking a couple of years ago, and we're on the construction side, so we're really comfortable with numbers. And not to turn this, I'll give you guys the Cliff Notes version of the story, but same thing, we were getting blown out on offers, and we're like, we must be missing something. And now we see a lot of these houses going back up for sale, and these guys just way overpaid for stuff. We finally got a couple under our belts, and we realized that no, our numbers were pretty close. So I think it's good. That's definitely one of those things that you want to look out. It will separate you from the competition to understand that. But you definitely want to take your time and get comfortable with that number, know exactly what's behind that number that you can explain in your sleep before you take someone's word for it.
Yeah. Just really thinking kind of like super macro and like really fundamental. In my mind, it's a combination of income growth and population growth. Mm-hmm. In some regards, if your population is growing at 3%, you can't have rent growth. I guess it's also supply and demand dynamics, but
well, what we found helpful was the CoStar report of the actual property, and that really kind of gave us. And I'll share that for you real quick here.
Yeah, we probably need to let you do the lessons learned there, Pat. And
okay, I can do that because that's what popped.
I'll keep this I can keep this open as long as anybody wants. But let's let you get through your piece here.
Okay. Do you guys see the lessons learned?
Yep.
Awesome. Most of these I've already said, but obviously put in lessons learned here from this one here was put in LOI orders, money to go hard on the execution of the PSA or sooner. When I did mention that we were putting in LOI in, the broker kind of said, oh, we're going to go that route. So I don't exactly know what he meant by that, but did find out, a week or so later that there was an offer after ours. Having a partner to help Brian couldn't have done half of this without him. I mean, that's probably the biggest lessons learned is, having somebody, he took care of the property management side, the insurance. I was able to talk to the broker. It just worked. Also having the capital partner as an old capital was obviously priceless because we weren't really guessing. Same kind of thing as the property management fees and stuff. Not having a property in that area, we really relied on a person or a company that was already in that area. Having a property management involved was priceless. Like I said, the bullet there. Again, having the CoStar report on the property, again, that was priceless. And I hate to be a credit card commercial, but that really kind of solidified, because the OMs are a sales brochure, right? They're shiny, they're the used car salesman. Hey, this thing works great. But if you got a third party, that along with other data that I pulled, that was priceless. And then having a shared drive, Brian and I, obviously he's in Colorado, I'm in Michigan. We set up a Dropbox where we just put stuff in there, much like we have the network that Jim set up. And thank you for that, Jim. That was extremely helpful. I could put stuff in, it's 8 o'clock here, my time. He's still at dinner time. He could do stuff and I can get up and see stuff. So those are the lessons learned. I'm sure there's more. Brian, do you have anything to add on that?
Not really. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of kind of the lesson learned stuff, just kind of, in hindsight, just basic stuff. I mean, not basic, but I mean, like you don't know what you don't know, so.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think next time it'll be, a lot of this stuff will be smoothed out, I think.
Yeah, and we want to be quicker, like you were talking, Jim. That's probably the biggest thing is because obviously you can sit in front of these spreadsheets and, just run them and it's that's kind of my thing. I get, you get so into this stuff, but yeah, if you can just pop it in and boom, and here have your levers. Okay, this is where we're going to go. And then boom, because, but anyway, that's my presentation. Thank you very much. And I apologize for keeping you guys over at 8:30. Any questions, concerns?
That is really outstanding. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
I
both.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for the feedback too. This is great.
Thanks, Jim, for
yes.
putting
Thanks,
this,
Jim. Yes.
Starting the whole channel and putting this all together.
So guys, like I said, I'll keep this open as long as you guys want to keep it open and keep talking or networking or whatever. But it has been an hour and a half now. So I'm sure that, some people want to get going and do whatever they've got to do. But, and also if you guys want, if there's any value in anybody wants a recording, let me know. Because I am recording it. So if you want to use that some way, it'll be available. And also to the point that's been made earlier, I know we talked a lot about wanting to eventually use AI and some automation and APIs and stuff to try to help us get faster at underwriting. But in the meantime, we can brute force this if we want, using VAs. And if we want to go down that route, and it's hard for any one of us to keep a VA full time, but if we get a really good VA or two that is really good at underwriting, or we can train to be really good at underwriting, and we want them to just underwrite, every deal that we put on the drive, then that's an option that's open to us.
To that point, Brian Briscoe in Four Oaks, I think they just hired someone from the local college or someone. I think he's an accounting student. So I mean, like, short of going on Fiverr and hiring a VA. Like they just went to the local college and said, "Hey, you guys want to underwrite for us?" And it seems to be working for them. So
Well, and that's also, we, as a platform, we will, each of us don't want to be stuck at the intern level for life. But, right now, we all need to do these things to learn how to do them and to be better at them. And so that when we do have somebody do it for us, I'll never be good at underwriting. I'm just, I beat Excel until it gives me what I want it to give me, but it takes me hours and I'll never be good at it. But we at least need to have enough understanding that we can intelligently talk about what the underwriting is telling us. But in the beginning here, for everybody that's new on the platform, that's why I'm encouraging everybody, underwrite the deal. Don't just let somebody else underwrite it for you. Let's get 2 or 3 or 4 different people. And if somebody wants to add value by saying, look, I want to learn to underwrite, so I can do 2 deals a day. I can input 2 deals a day, and then you guys take it over. We just need to call it out on the channel. Who's willing to be that person to add value? Because as I constantly say, you need to add value to give as much as you get. Okay. And for some people, that's an easy way for them to give.
Yeah, I like your idea, Jim, too, as far as like the automation, like a VA. I've used VAs, and yeah, it gets to a point where you get no return. You're spending a lot of cash, but if, like you said, $5 a piece for whoever we got a VA for 2-3 months to do this stuff, and get the deals cranking, yes or no, through the door.
So I started putting together a kind of like an underwriting guideline on kind of like a per door, I don't know, like rough basis based on kind of how big the property is. I'll throw that in the underwriting mastermind folder. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably a good spot for it, Chris. And a lot of other people have been building out their own versions. Most of them are probably based on the SDA because so many people here come from Michael's program. But there's several people on here already that have a lot of little tools built in with little comments saying this needs to be at least X. So if we can maybe start that conversation on Slack in the underwriting channel, say, guys, let's all come together. Everybody who's added something to and has any input for an expense line of what it should be, let's start coalescing around that and start putting that into one piece of underwriting.
Yeah, I think that'd
That's
be
how we'll get to a really great underwriting tool.
Yeah, and then we can write somebody get to write macros to just do this stuff like that, because
Davide, who just signed off, Davide from Formica, he has some great models that he's posted on Michael's Slack channel, Michael Blanc's channel, and he's got some awesome stuff. So we should rope him into the conversation and share some of it.
Davi has some great stuff that he's added to his. Michael has some great stuff he's added. Daryl Murphy has some great stuff he's added.
Daryl Murphy also.
So there's a lot of people there. If we just coalesce around that and put it all in, you don't have to use all of it if you don't want to, but if it's there, then it makes for a powerful tool. As we start to coalesce around a piece of underwriting, it needs to start off very, very simple for people who've never underwritten anything. In probably that 10-minute model, where it has everything already built in. All you've got to do is plug in the price and the rent, and it spits out a number. Okay, that's something really, really simple. And then as it moves to another page or another tab, it becomes progressively more complicated for people that need additional information to make a decision. But that's what I think we will eventually get to. But we need to, like I said, this belongs to you guys. You got to drive it. So if you've got that idea and you want to see it happen, put it out there on the Slack channel, get some more people involved to help you. This is not something any one of us can do alone. But if we team up, at Pat's point, if we team up and take on some additional partners, each one of us can do a little bit of something to make all of this better for everyone.
So I'm gonna throw this into that.
Chris, how's your guys, you and Parker, how's your deal going?
It is going. It's taking a lot of time. I've seen the numerous chats on this, just the GOB, network in general, and I'm excited. I'm really excited to jump into it, but we've been so
Yeah, you guys are
concentrated.
right now. That's totally understandable. But
Yeah,
Andrew's been pretty active in trying to help on the capital side, and he did reach out to me, and I assumed that you guys had given him permission to reach out to me. Nobody needs permission, but
yeah.
I talked to you guys first.
Mhm.
And I told you all along, I didn't understand why he was asking me if I would, when I told you guys right from the start I would.
Yeah, that might have just been a cross signals of kind of who we've reached out to already.
Yeah.
But we can
I'm still
we can chat
available.
offline and catch up maybe.
Yeah, I'm still available, but I just it didn't come across quite the way I had wanted it to come across. But I told him, if you guys have other resources and you can do it, in a way that you prefer to do it, my feelings don't get hurt. I'm too old to have hurt feelings. If I can help, I'll help.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work for me and it works for somebody else, then absolutely do what's in your best interest.
Yeah, and high level, from a KP perspective, we haven't solidified it yet. So
I'll be there right up
Yeah,
until
so
the
we-
last minute. If you need me, I'll
Yeah.
be there.
We
If you call me
appreciate
on
that.
the last day, I'll still come on board.
Appreciate that a
Good to
lot.
know. Thanks, Jim.
The fee's going to be higher, but he'll come on board.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like my last mentor told me, I gave him 50 grand and I said, I hope that means I can call you whenever I want. And he goes, absolutely. Here's my cell phone number. Call me anytime you want. And what I realized was he didn't have to pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could always call it, leave
I
a
could
text, but
call
just the
anytime,
response
day or night.
back.
Yeah,
That's
anytime.
my friend.
Well,
So
thank you for this, Jim. I appreciate giving
No,
the opportunity.
you guys,
Thank
hey,
you. Thank you, guys.
I'm really glad that you guys stepped up to the plate and went first. So that was great.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Hey guys,
And we
real
might
quick, I
even-
guess before we call it a night, I just wanted to add real quick, as someone who's just started underwriting today, and I actually took Justin Keeble's course, which I know, Jim, you had mentioned something where,
that I love that.
yeah, and like he kind of structures his course in a way where, you start out very simple and he kind of adds to it as you progress throughout the course. But having finished it and having to start, practicing, doing the underwriting itself, one of the walls I kept running into today was those line item expenses. So I guess moving forward, in order to get those type of line items, would you guys suggest going with property managers and just asking those guys to provide you with those items, or how are you guys figuring those out?
Well, for when you're starting, Chris, just plug in what the OM says. Just take it. You're not trying to, at this point, you just need practice getting quick at getting deals in. Okay. So just use the data that's available to you. And if you don't know a number, make a number up. It really doesn't matter. And see what happens. You're trying to figure out, like Pat kept saying, which levers to pull. So you just put numbers in, and then as you change those numbers, you see what effect it has on your underwriting. Okay. But you'll start to, the starting point is always the OM. Just plug in the OM, the T12, and the comparables and the rent roll, and that's your starting point. And then you build on that. But, you refine from that. But in the beginning, just use all of those numbers. And you can see from this conversation, that's always going to be a number. It's always a moving target.
Okay.
Depending on market, depending on the deal, there's so many variables.
Right. It was just kind of hard to get to a point where like I can have some sort of return just because I have the current expenses that are on the OM, but then trying to predict a more comprehensive expense, once we were to take it over. That was kind of the challenge that I was running into.
Yeah, you'll start to, and those are pieces that even on Justin's model, which I love, but most people here have not been through his courses and haven't seen his model. If they seen it, they'd probably abandon the SDA yesterday. But we'll get there someday, because his stuff is so much richer, and will do a lot more. I think, Chris, you in particular, because of where you work, might have more appreciation. I think Bastian is actually, if he's not on the call anymore, I don't think, but I think he would really like it. But it gives you, it breaks things down, takes all the data, it'll build charts, bar graphs, pie charts, all kinds of stuff that when it comes to trying to, for somebody who's visual, and especially when you start pitching your deal to potential partners and investors, oh my God, it just blows, just numbers in a cell, it just blows it away, you know.
Hey, Jim, I'd like to add to that. Justin does a great job of showing you how to automate things. I've been able to kind of learn what I use and just build in the models that he taught, and found ways to kind of automate just like the T12 and converting that to the format that I want. The same for the rent roll. So like it's a lot easier for me to get those financials and break them down to a way that's useful for me. And a lot of it's just automated and built into the sheet.
Brandon, so you need to get on as one of the, sign up on the sheet as one of the hosts and go through that with us. You know,
Yes,
share
for
that
sure.
with
I definitely will. I definitely will.
Yeah, so that'd be tremendous value. I appreciate that. Thank you for speaking up.
And Chris,
Yeah, no
this
problem.
is Pat. One thing I would say, and I had the same issue as you were having. What I did is there was a local gentleman who's also a coach within Michael's. I paid him and sat him down and said, okay, what do you see in your properties here in Michigan as expenses? So those started my rule of thumb. They did mirror up to what Mike has, or probably the rules of thumb that you have in yours. And each area is going to be different, but that's what I did here locally. Is I just contacted a person who had already properties. He has, almost 300 properties here locally. I said, what are you seeing? Are these good rules of thumbs? You tweaked them here and there, and I knew my area, but going down to another area in Georgia, again, we used, other OMs, the property manager at the time. That's how I do it.
Gotcha. Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome.
Yes, Taylor, there's going to be one every Thursday night, same bat channel, same bat time. And guys, if you will, just ping me on Slack, or you have my cell phone number. Anybody that wants the recording so that I don't lose track of it, just let me know. And I'll try to get that sent out hopefully tomorrow. Let's see. What
Thank
else?
you very much for doing this.
And also, Chris, as these guys were talking about, we've got 3 or 4 or 5 people that have a lot of those rules of thumb built in already into their spreadsheets. So hopefully they'll start to share that, and for people that are just starting to underwrite, that'll give them good guidance. That's kind of where that go, no go type of thing will come into play. And it's always, remember, it's a rule of thumb. It's not cast in stone. So.
And Chris, I don't know if you have access to that. I think I see Taylor's in there as well, but it's just a Word doc, and I tried to go like line by line, like, concessions, bad debt, taxes, insurance, marketing, kind of line by line, like rough rule of thumb that we're trying to kind of put together internally.
Thank you, Chris. That's great.
Yep.
That's great. So. All right, guys. What else?
I got to jump, but
I really, hey guys,
everyone.
before everybody starts jumping off, thank you so much, everyone, for this. Has been great.
This has been awesome.
I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your night to do this.
Thank you for setting it up, making it happen. Thanks, Jim.
You as well, Jim. Yeah, this was great.
Very nice to meet you guys.
Talk to you soon.
We'll rock and roll
Thanks.
on the Slack
Have a good night,
channel
guys.
here.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one, guys.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Later, Brian.
Hey, Jim, do you have a sec?
Sure. Yeah, just stay on, Chris.
Okay. Yep.
Hey, Trina, anything else? There we go. All right.
So, so where we are right now is we, and I think I told you about this, but we connected with a guy who is still kind of trying to come up He has a really strong net worth and liquidity, and he has 4 or 5 deals under his belt, like Fannie Freddie,
Mhm.
but he's not like a full-time investor. And he and I have been chatting probably 6 months or something. And he said he would come in on this deal for like 30 grand
Okay.
as a GP. And so I think he gives us kind of everything we need. So that was kind of our lead GP. And I know we didn't get down to the exact brass tacks, but I assume you'll be higher than that, just given your experience.
Well,
That's kind of where
I'll tell you what I told you the first time that we had this discussion, which is, I want your deal to work for you.
yeah.
That's the most important thing. The second thing is that I would actually prefer not to take a cash disbursement. I actually would prefer to have a percent as opposed to cash. I'll do either one you want to do.
Yeah.
But for me, I'd rather have the opportunity to invest in you guys
Mhm.
and not take money out of the deal right on the get-go, right on the front end. So
Yeah, I
that
think you're kind of thinking about it maybe the opposite end of like the GP is almost a more expensive piece. Like I think we'd almost be more willing to pay kind of lump sum upfront, just with the idea being that, this one in particular, maybe it is, who knows, fingers crossed we won't hold it 10 years and we'll be able to sell it way before then. But yeah.
Either way you guys are comfortable.
Yep.
Like I told you on the first call, we do it the way you want to do it. You need to be comfortable. It's your deal.
Appreciate that.
So I'm there, I'm not going to let you lose the deal because of something like that.
Yeah. And as far as Andrew reaching out, I don't know if that was a miscommunication, because we had actually already talked to him about you being one of our kind of KPs that we were thinking about. So
I just almost felt like Andrew was trying to take over the deal, and I felt like, look, this deal is Parker and Chris's deal.
Yeah.
It's not Andrew's deal.
So
Andrew
we
brought in to raise capital, but it's not his deal, and I didn't want him to take it over.
Yeah, I appreciate
and
that.
I might have misread it. I don't know.
Yeah, so we, the structure we ended up coming in with was, so Andrew is, I guess, has some relationship with Christopher Huffman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know him?
I don't know if we've met personally, but I do know who he is. Yes.
And so, he has some pretty good development experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like he's done a good amount of investor fundraising as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so Andrew was the one who connected us with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we ended up kind of deciding on was Andrew, I guess, works very closely with Sterling. And so we said, why don't you guys come in, you three as a group, you can decide amongst yourselves kind of what the splits are.
Right.
And so we had, forget kind of at what stage. I mean, we sort of did raise the capital, but like we probably raised like most of it, but then the rest of it would have been kind of like non-promote money and like advantageous fees of just like friends and family coming in and, kind of just allowing us to like do the deal.
Right.
But we thought it made sense, like, one, just by being able to be around people to learn more and learn. And Chris has a lot of really cool systems, so he's been a great help so far. And so,
but doesn't Chris have the net worth and liquidity to do this?
It's interesting because his not by himself, and he has a decent net worth, but not in and of itself. And I think his liquidity is pretty low. Well, let me phrase that. I guess like any good real estate investor, it fluctuates a lot.
Well, the limiting factor for most guys, to be honest with you, is not their net worth. It's usually the liquidity.
Yeah. And that's what it was for him. Like he was pretty low on liquidity.
But
maybe
the
that's
thing
getting a
is,
little too personal, but yeah.
The thing is, when you sign on that debt, though, they don't carve out your net worth or your liquidity.
Right. Right.
He has you on the line for both of them.
Yep. So yeah, we're still making through it. And so that's kind of the team. It's turned into a pretty big team, to be honest. And so that's something we're trying to make sure we navigate efficiently and, assign people certain things.
And I will also say to you, when you're doing your pitch deck and your presentation webinar, if you're planning on doing a webinar, keep the team small on paper, as small as you can. So instead of listing out the individual names, maybe just list out the entity that they're investing as, that a lot of people will get scared if they think there's too many fingers in the pie.
Yeah, that was one of the things we were thinking about how to present it, but like essentially it's Clear Bay Capital and like AIM Capital.
Okay.
And then maybe just keeping it at that. But yeah, then it starts to, because like if you have a real company, right, you'd have hundreds of people at your company. You wouldn't reference every 100 person. You just kind of, so, with that said, we're trying to also, I don't want to say navigate, we want to be thoughtful and just, even if someone has a smaller piece, if they're then bringing it to a investor and then they're not like in the deck, or I don't know, we have to just figure that.
Well, yeah, for your webinar, you can, if they're sending out emails to their investors, you can have them put their face and name into their pitch deck. Just add an extra
right,
slide
and just like
then.
swap it in.
Right, but when you do something that's being sent out nationally or anybody can see it, keep it smaller.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's a good for that to be reiterated in my head. So you doing well?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So right. So if feel free to reach out anytime you need to talk to me.
Okay. Really appreciate it.
But if it's really important, just shoot me a text and we'll do something like this.
Okay.
I keep the evenings, try to keep them as free as I can. They're starting to get busier, but I try to keep the weekends and the evenings so that if I need to have these kind of calls, we can.
Yeah. And I think you might be recording this still. So just,
I am, yes.
Yeah. If you post it, just make sure you cut this out.
Oh, crap. I wish you would have said that right before. I would have just stopped the recording.
Yeah, I just saw that.
I'll edit it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're very, hopefully we're doing a lot of deals, so we're looking forward to working with you in some capacity, even if this one doesn't work out or does work out, and you got to come in as the saving night.
Whatever works for the deal is what works for me. So I want you guys to be successful.
Yeah,
that's the whole reason for me starting this thing.
Yeah, and we haven't been. I personally haven't been super active in the Slack, but I have been wanting to be. So I'm excited to dig in once I get a little bit more time here.
Cool, fantastic.
Yeah.
And once this is all said and done, I hope you guys upload everything about the deal, so that
that's a very good point. We can do that.
Not just to help build that historical database for us, but for people to see how you guys did it. Sometimes you get the best ideas from somebody who's never done it and they don't know what they're not supposed to do. And they come up with something absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's well said.
All right.
Cool.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Jim.
All right.
Yeah.
See you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.